Hey everybody, Alex Newman here with The New American, and we are at the Mises Institute booth. Actually, Ludwig von Mises, the wonderful, great economist, was on the editorial board of the predecessor publications of The New American magazine for a long time. And we're here with Tho Bishop. He's the editor at the Mises Institute. He edits their webpage. Tho, obviously economic issues are kind of at the forefront right now of discussion with the inflation. Explain for the people who aren't familiar with Austrian economics, how do Austrians understand the issue of inflation?
Well, first and foremost, it's a recognition of the role that sound money plays in truly creating a sound free market economy. What we've had is, once we had a breakaway entirely from gold and all the manipulations before that, and that leads us to a situation where the government has access to the printing press. They get to be the first benefactors of money. They get to spend a whole lot more. But what's really insidious about this is that the enterprises that then get the money, whether it is big banks, military industrial complex, increasingly big tech, big pharma, they have an advantage over the rest of the economy. And so when we're talking about inflation, it's not simply the prices that we're dealing with right now that are just destructive to the American middle class, but the impact of this going on decades has led to massive corporate consolidation, which has directly played a role in all the ways in which we're seeing big businesses victimize half the country right now. And so, inflation in the kitchen table sort of sense is the biggest political driver destroying the Democratic Party. The Republicans really don't have an answer to this. And ultimately, understanding the money issue goes directly to those other issues of tech censorship, vulture capitalism, all the things like Tucker Carlson likes to talk about. The Fed is at the center of all these things. And so we want real solutions. We need to identify the true underlying cause.
So what are some real solutions? I mean, Ron Paul always said, end the Fed. That's a pretty simple. Does it get any deeper than that?
Well, one of the things that he proposed as a way of ending the Fed is getting rid of the tax protection that Federal Reserve notes have relative to other currencies. For example, he had a bill that was talking about competing currencies. And what that bill would do is eliminate taxes on gold, silver, and now cryptocurrency, right? And so if Republicans are looking for that one big thing that would do more to destabilize our enemies, that large globalist class, this is a way that would freely allow Americans to protect their savings in non-dollar denominated assets. And so I've been talking with Republican, populist congressional candidates, those currently in office, about the way that, the only thing Republicans seem to be good at the federal level is cutting taxes. This is something that provides a very strategic tax cut that would actually redistribute wealth away from Wall Street and into the pockets of normal Americans that own gold, own Bitcoin, an entire industry that's far more favorable to us than, again, that vulture class, that globalist class within large, big financial institutions.
And what happens if we don't deal with this? Suppose, because there really is an incredible ignorance about this. You guys are doing a heroic job trying to educate the public, but if we're honest, very few people understand this. What happens if we just keep going the direction we're going?
You destroy the money and destroy people, right? It prevents the ability to save for the future. And that's the aspect of it, is that economics isn't some sort of boring topic. It's not propaganda for big business, right? It's not simply about number go up, looking at the stock market, or even just purely measured in material gains. Fundamentally, this is a culture issue, right? What we've done right now is we've created an economic environment, an entire global system, at least within the West. It's funny, Russia doesn't have a lot of debt and they buy a lot of gold, neither here nor there. But we've created an entire system where we subsidize reckless short-term behavior, and we punish the people that think long-term, that are responsible. And guess what? The core of civilization, right, is planting trees that your grandkids are going to be able to enjoy. We have the entire system weaponized against this sort of thinking. And so if we're wanting to get serious about not simply how we save, the American economy, but how we save Western civilization, we have to get serious about economic issues. And the problem is a lot of the defenders of free markets or libertarian ideas, they get chasing after, big billionaire money, or they fetishize all these sort of cultural libertine sort of issues. What has always set the Mises Institute apart, a lot of the Austrian scholars apart, is that we recognize that the civilizational aspect, we are born into families, into language groups, into cultures. And for us to thrive as individuals within a community, we have to respect those civil institutions just as much as we care about the material foundations. And so that's what we try to do, is try to make sure that within this populist moment, we're not embracing economic know-nothingism and getting rid of these ideas of markets and capitalism good, but instead identifying that the threats we've had are the byproduct of getting away from sound money and away from those principles that Ludwig von Mises talked about, and that not New American and John Birch Society has been talking about for a very long time.
That's awesome. And so for somebody out there who's just new to this, you're talking about inflation. They're like, wow, that's interesting. What would you recommend as some resources to really dive into this as a beginner?
There's it's an old book, but it's short to the point. What has government done to our money by Murray Rothbard is a great little thing that looks at both the understanding money on a theoretical perspective, but also a lot of the history involved. It was written in 1968, so there is still a lot to be said from the future aspect to it. In a few months, we're actually going to be releasing a updated animated video series called What Has Government Done to Our Money? So, stay tuned to the Mises Institute for that content. I'm excited about that. Another great book out there is The Bitcoin Standard by Seyfedin Ammous. And what's great about it is that even if you're a gold guy and you're a little skeptical at Bitcoin, what it highlights is these cultural issues with money. And so that's a book that I enjoy a great deal as well.
Fascinating. And the website, just tell people where to find all the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, the Mises Institute is mises.org. And we also have a great new project, Economics for Beginners. A lot of short, about 3 to 5 minute long videos, animated, great for homeschooling parents. You can find that at begineconomics.com, a great way to get involved and to get started in understanding basic economic principles.
Well, Tho Bishop, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for all the great work you guys are doing.
Great to be here.
All right, folks, we'll be back with more. We're here at CPAC. Talk to you in a bit.